Welcome back to another episode of Sacred Wild Man. My name is Roy, and today I'd like to talk about this topic of arousal templates and karma. So this term arousal template, I believe, was first coined in the sphere of sex addiction therapy and supporting people who experience sex addiction to help them identify, what are the fetishes or symbols that arouse you, and then beginning to kind of decouple some of that stimuli, that arousing experience from those symbols to help them heal from their sex addiction. Maybe I'm completely off, but that's just my own interpretation of it now. However, this term arousal template, in my opinion, can be applied much more broadly than just in the realm of sex and sex addiction. Because as human beings, we have a nervous system. And our nervous system is constantly scanning and paying attention to the stimuli around us, and without our conscious awareness. So there's always something going on in which we can become aroused by. Our nervous system becomes aroused by. And that arousal can occur in the experience of, say, fear, sensations of fear, or laughter, anger, sadness, a whole host of different responses. And the idea with arousal templates, as I'm formulating it, is that when we have these imprints or these blueprints of how our nervous systems become aroused or triggered, which is just a commonplace word these days, we are primed to interact with the world not as how reality is, but as how we ourselves are. And I believe there's some quote, not sure who it's associated with, perhaps some spiritual teacher, which goes, you don't see the world as it is, but you see the world as you are. And as long as you are interacting with the world as you are, then you really do miss out on what actually is. So to go a little bit further into this, with the experiences that we grow up with in early childhood, that's often when our working model of the world, who we are, how we're supposed to be, how others are, is imprinted and becomes solidified at some point. And that is our guide. That's our roadmap for how we're supposed to, or we believe ourselves to have to operate within the world, right? So the world is hostile, so I must go about the world always looking over my shoulder, or the world is always in my favor and I just get to enjoy life. Two different roadmaps, two very different experiences. Now, when I was working through my own therapy, the first therapist I worked with, he brought up this term, the arousal template. And he didn't bring it up so much in terms of the nervous system of, what you actually feel, but more so the symbols and the dynamics. And I think it's helpful to have an understanding of both, is that when you know the symbols and the dynamics, you're more quickly able to spot it when it's happening. And if you're aware of your nervous system's response, you can track how you're feeling, how you're breathing, your heart rate, all of this, the sensations. You can also catch yourself in the moment better. So, a personal story. I grew up with a single mom. My parents divorced when I was 8. And so there was very much a fixation on, men are bad, women are good. That was kind of the working model that I had fixed and cemented in my mind, just because of my experiences with my dad at that point, and then my experiences with my mom. Of course, these things also shifted over time. But at that age, when this arousal template was cemented, some of the dynamics that I had with my mom was that she was very hard to please. There was this sense that I was not good enough, that I could never be good enough for her. So I internalized that, and in my relation to her, it was a bitter one, but also one in which I really did want her approval to finally be good enough. That then gets projected onto all my interactions with women. Now, what my therapist had pointed out to me was that he's like, here's the working model with your mom, right? Here's you in your own essence, just who you are. And here's your mom. The message that you receive from mom is that who you are, how you are, who you are just as a person, as a being, is not good enough for her. And so you're always attempting, right, as children do, we want the approval of our parents, to be pleasing to them, to be seen in a positive light. So that's your working model, Roy. Now, when you bring this to another woman, because this was an instance where I really liked this woman in my grad program, but that was only after she had expressed initial interest. So at that time, she wasn't even in my radar of someone I'm interested in. It's like, oh yeah, this is my classmate. At some point, as I was beginning to express myself more authentically, because that was a trend that I noticed, that as I was going through my own therapy, also learning more in my grad program, I started to be more expressive and just authentic. There was less guardedness. Evidently, she took notice of that, right? And started to express more interest in me. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, well, maybe I should do something more, right? Because she's interested in me, so now I should do more, right? He pointed out that dynamic using the same one between, myself, my mom. He's like, all right, so now let's move your mom out of the picture and just put her here, this woman that you're interested in. She expressed interest in you and likes you just as you are, right? Who you are as a human being. But that's not your working model that you had growing up with you and your mom, right? Because the working model you had was who you are is not good enough. You need to do more. And because you've experienced that so little, the experience of being liked and appreciated just as you are, when that does happen, it completely lights up your nervous system, parts of your brain, to be like, oh wow, like I don't know what to do with this approval, this interest, this liking from another woman. And you kind of go off the rails and try to just give of yourself to her. You just want to like open the floodgates, like, oh, I finally have received this approval and this liking, and this means I probably need to do more, and also express my appreciation that she likes me for who I am. So I just need to gush out more. And then he brings back that model. He says, the problem is this woman that you like is not your mom. She doesn't need you to be more or want you to be more anything. She originally liked you just as you are. And so when you come in with this huge wave of gushing and like needing to please or try to do more or be more liked by her because somehow you still believe that being who you are is not enough, that pushes her away. Which is exactly what was happening, because I had brought that up in therapy. It was like, I don't get it, right? She expressed interest in me, now I'm reciprocating that attention, and now it seems like it's pushing her away. What the hell is going on here? So when he first explained that to me, I was like, holy shit. That is the arousal template. That's the blueprint I'm working from. And even till this day, it's still something I am unwinding, right? To loosen that template from which I've operated for so much of my life, to say, I don't need to impress women. I don't need to try to be more, right? That's the old story. And with that awareness and beginning to loosen that arousal template, there's more freedom, right? Even just being able to say to myself, I don't have to impress women. I don't need to prove anything at all. It's just a huge weight lifted, right? I feel lighter, like, wow, what a burden to relieve myself from, right? What was I doing this entire time? And this is where the piece on karma fits in. So as I was thinking about arousal templates, I was like, well, if you don't ever resolve an arousal template that you have, this blueprint that you have of how you operate and live in the world, and especially when it is outdated, right? It served you for a certain period in your life, but it's no longer useful anymore, right? It's exhausted its usefulness. If you keep doing it, you're essentially kind of locked in this karmic entanglement with mostly yourself, but you project that out onto the world, right? As I mentioned either in a previous video, or I think I did, is that if you have this blueprint that you haven't worked out, this arousal template, then you're constantly writing a script for this drama in the world and handing these roles to other people that they'd never signed up for anyways. Nobody has any clue about it. But in your mind, that's how it exists. Just like I was handing out that script to these women of like, you're the one who is going to finally give me the approval that I need. No, they're not. Right? And that isn't even up to my mom either. In the end, it's up to me to be good with myself and within myself. So when those arousal templates aren't resolved, you can only interact with the world in a very limited dimension. And so it can seem like this cruel trick or some cruel game where it's like, do I just need to suffer the same shit over and over and over and over? My answer to that question, at least for myself, and for anyone else who's listening, maybe this answer can help but also be somewhat aggravating, is no, you don't need to keep suffering that over and over. In fact, you get to decide when you want to stop suffering that. There's a conscious choice that needs to be made. But it also requires digging into the subconscious imprinting that is there. Because sometimes we don't have awareness. And when we don't have awareness, we don't have the understanding of why do I do what I do. Right? When, in fact, when you get into the subconscious and identify that, this is a really good reason why you do what you do. And also why it's no longer serving your life anymore. Because, once again, it's an outdated template. One other thing that I've experienced, and that you, as a listener, might have experienced, as you begin to heal, as you begin to unfold and grow and loosen these old arousal templates, patterns, you might find yourself experiencing doubt or even some paranoia. It's certainly something I've experienced before. And a recent understanding that I've had of those things, doubt and paranoia, is I think it's actually an alarm system. This alarm system within our ego or subconscious mind, that because it's so used to what was, when we start going in the direction of newness and growth, of the life that we say we actually want to live, that old part of us goes into freak out mode. It's like, what are you doing? Are you sure you want to go in this direction? Because this is a completely new direction. We're not used to this. This isn't the familiar, right? Like, if you go in this direction, there's probably going to be danger. Something bad is going to happen. And that's almost like a self-gaslighting that we start doing. And I don't think it's malicious or anything. It's just the experience of, as the title of Dr. Joe Dispenza's book goes, breaking the habit of being yourself. And just think about the habits that you do have that aren't conducive to your life. Whether that's sleeping in very late, getting a late start to your day, then feeling bad about yourself. Maybe it's certain addictions. All these habits that you have, you think about how many times you've told yourself, like, all right, I'm going to stop this tomorrow. Like, I'm going to do better. And then finding yourself in the same place. Okay? It takes a lot of intention and effort to make a change to something new. So it's not surprising then when your conditioned mind and this template that you've been so used to is something that tries to pull you back when you start going into a new direction. Whether that's a new relationship, job, or just relationship with your friends, changes in how you express yourself. People might experience you differently in ways that they're not used to. And they might try to pull you back to where you were, if that's the avatar of you that they've been used to. Like, I only want to relate to you in this dimension that I've been used to. So change threatens everybody, yourself and potentially other people around you, especially if everybody just wants to stay entrenched in the same thing because they don't know any better. Okay. Now you get to reevaluate. Are these arousal templates that I've been used to of, what triggers me, or what just signals to me that, these are the relationships, or these are the experiences that I get to have in the world. I'm just limited to these experiences because I've always been limited to these experiences. You get to decide now, are these templates something I still want to work from? And are these karmic bonds or entanglements things I still want to operate from? Or do I want to make a new choice and face all the self-doubt, paranoia, and fear that might get evoked? But because I believe in something better, I know something better exists. I know that there's more dimensions to me than just what I've been used to and have told myself all my life. And if that is the direction that you want to go, there's many ways to go about it. Whether that's reading books on your own. So I would recommend Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Others have also spoke highly of the book You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Or just working with a therapist, a coach, some healer of sorts, to begin to really be intentional about, hey, there are these patterns in my life. They keep happening. I've had enough of these, and I am ready to look at perhaps some of the reasons why I am afraid to let these go, but then also to envision and feel into the future that actually already exists for me of a better life that I know I can live. And that starts with me beginning to make a change, small incremental changes in the now. So that's all the thoughts that I had for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.